GEM International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. GEM International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Rafe Mair, former BC Cabinet Minister and Canada's #1 longest-running talk show host on the radio.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. Rafe, the RCMP investigating the way funds are raised for political parties in BC. What do you think they're going to find?
Well, it's going to be interesting to find out whether they find anything in timely fashion. We'll probably find out whatever they have discovered long after it matters in the election. But I think what they'll find is what's been reported, Jim. I don't think there's much question really on what all the facts are. I think the real issue here is do we have strong enough laws, and are we enforcing those laws so that there's an example set for the future? What the Liberals have done over the last, as long as Christy's been around, I guess, to me is utterly and totally reprehensible. But it seemed to be more a moral thing than a legal thing, and I must tell you frankly, I've never been quite certain, where the moral line ends and the legal line begins. Now, clearly, if it's an outright bribe, and that's. But even then, you have trouble with the definition. I sit and I watch on my idiot box. There's Christy at dinner, and there's somebody giving $5,000, and the next thing I know, that same guy is getting a contract to build a road. Well, what's the difference between that and a bribe? It's a gray area, and I don't think there's any question about it that her behavior has been utterly immoral and maybe illegal, but it strikes me that we should sit down and come up with some pretty hard and fast rules, and so we don't have to wonder about this in the future.
Do you think they'll actually do anything about it?
Well, not this government won't. No, I don't think there's any question about that at all. Another government might, but fundraising is an interesting thing. Everybody wants the other guy to behave themselves, but doesn't want the rules to quite apply to them. I'm a long way from this. We had a much different system when I was in government, and every one of our constituencies that I knew raised their own money principally for elections, and you did that with the usual thing of raffles and parties and that kind of stuff. And I don't frankly know very much about the big money part of it, but in the last few years it's certainly become, I think, scandalous to have people actually paying money out and everybody knowing about that money and then being able to connect the dots so quickly. You don't have any trouble connecting dots, for example, on the IPP scandal with BC Hydro. I mean, you see these guys with the great big contracts they get, and you look at the next couple of years, and you see the donations they make to the Liberal Party, and a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old would tell you, Daddy, that's wrong. But whether or not there are specific enough rules is the issue I'm raising here. It's one thing to cluck our tongues, but nothing seems to be done, and I don't think it will be done until there are much clearer rules in place and that they are enforced. Now, let me just finish by saying this. They're not easy to enforce either. We have people that are supposed to be looking at these things, conflicts of interest, Chairman, and so on, and they never seem to find anything wrong. So it's a vexing problem. It's a bad problem, I think, in British Columbia particularly, and we only have to look at BC to see what it's done to our reputation across Canada. Whether fairly or not is another story, but there's no doubt about it. The Globe and Mail has raised hell, and so has the New York Times, and we look very, very bad because of this. And surely we've got to do a little more about it than just refer it to the RCMP, who may or may not report back in time for anybody to do anything at the ballot box.
We'll have more with Rafe Mair right after the break.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Rafe Mair. Rafe, the BC Auditor General, did a report about the government ads promoting their budget and other policies. And it was found that these ads are not neutral. They made recommendations 3 years ago to change the regulations, but the Christy Clark government has no plans to do that. Should they be forced, the BC Liberals, to repay taxpayers for those ads?
Well, I think that there's a case to be made for that. I presume it would be a civil case, and maybe you'd have to bring a class action. I'm too far away from my law days to be able to answer that, but I don't see why not. Now, this again, just like the question of donations, has always been a vexing question because the government will say, "Oh my goodness, all we were doing was informing the public of a program of the government." Now, the program of the government had to be something they just declared with a glossy public relations blitz, and now they use public funds to add to that. But there's always, again, that gray area, and the politicians are very good at exploiting that gray area. Now, I think we'll go a little further here, though, Jim. I think some of them are way beyond the gray area. They're so very, very obvious. The question, again, as it was with the donations, what's the law and what's the remedy? I think the law is not too tough to interpret. The remedies ought to be clear, and they ought to be enforceable quickly. And these are the kind of things, I think, Jim, that do more damage to the political system than anything else. When you have people not trusting politicians on what are relatively minor matters compared to what they're doing on a daily basis, then you really get yourself into a pickle. Take, for example, the Mike Smith story that the Premier spent nearly $1 million having pictures taken of herself. And you look at that and think, well, that's not really too much if you look at BC Hydro and the province and all the rest of it. But then you think about that for a second, as I'm just doing, as I'm writing an article. What does that tell you about the person that's running BC Hydro and running the province? If they have that kind of morality with small amounts of money, relatively small amounts of money, what the hell are they like when they get into the big game? And that perhaps explains why BC Hydro is in such trouble, why Christy Clark in her 4 years has put the debt up $71 billion in the province of British Columbia, because she has no understanding and doesn't care about the spending of money, whether it's $1 million on pictures of herself or whether it's on the very big expenditure she's in charge of. And I think there's a line to be drawn. I think people are right to say, look, I think that when somebody does something like that, it tells a bigger story. And that's what I think is going to hurt the Liberals very badly. And this one has been, and this has been endless almost since the time they got in, particularly since Christy took over, where money is spent as if it belonged to some philanthropist that didn't need it instead of the people of British Columbia. And this is going to hurt.
We'll have more with Rafe Mair right after this.
I'm Bill McWilliam, president of Cascadero Copper, CCD on the TSX Venture Exchange. Cesium is one of the world's rarest metals with a growing industrial demand. Drilling is underway on our Tehran property in Argentina to prove up a cesium resource. Cascadero's patent-pending leach process has the potential to make Cascadero the lowest cost supplier of cesium in the world. Visit our website, cascadero.com, or phone us at 604-924-5504.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Rafe Mair. Rafe, I've heard BC Housing is fixing up the exterior of their high-rise buildings so that they can sell them to the private sector and then evict people who have disabilities and mental issues and turn it into market housing renovictions. What's your feeling on that?
Well, I've heard the same rumors, Jim. I haven't seen any hard evidence of that. I just, matter of fact, reading a story about it in the Globe and Mail today, and it looks as if that is happening. Let's just back up for a second and say this, that this particular government has been heartless towards people in need, and homeless people, and elderly people, and mentally ill people. This is a government that needs all the help it can get in getting an image out to the people that they actually care. And when this sort of stuff comes up, whether it's by rumor or whether it's real or what, it hurts very badly, not just the government, but it hurts us all because that represents all of us. And again, papers like the Globe and Mail and the New York Times pick it up and put it all across their front pages. I wouldn't be at all surprised that this is on the table. The handling by the Liberals of all housing and all real estate under their aegis has been just unbelievable. Billionaire developers getting inside information, advising the government on programs which are obviously going to benefit them and so on. It becomes so that even somebody like me, Jim, gets speechless because I was looking today in an article I'm just writing. I've got to say something good about this government. What can I say? And I can't think of a damn thing. And this is the part I think that would blind any reporter, any kind of a columnist, to any good things they do. The bad stuff just jumps right out at you. And you look at older people being thrown out of their homes so that somebody can make some money out of an apartment building. Come on, that doesn't help in our kind of a society. That doesn't happen in our kind of society. Well, it does. And whether it's in this case or not, I'm not prepared to say because I haven't seen the hard evidence. But certainly we've seen examples like this in the past, and looking at their record with disadvantaged, poor people, sick people, and so on, you can't possibly be surprised if it happens again.
Well, personally, I have a friend who lives in one of the government housing buildings. They're renovating the outside of the building, but they're not doing anything about the apartments inside, which seems to me they really are setting it up for people to be evicted.
Well, I wouldn't be at all surprised, as I say. I don't know the inside facts at all, but it certainly would be in keeping with their past actions in matters of this sort. And I just, it's hard for me to understand, Jim. And again, it's a long way from me going back to when I was in government. But I can't understand barbarians like this in positions of authority. Now, when I was in government, I hated Dave Barrett and the NDP, and they hated me and all the rest of it. But none of us would think for a second that this kind of crap would happen. I mean, we were mad at each other for issues that were either they were specious issues just for fun, or they were very serious matters. But I can't imagine anything like this happening in the times that I was there. I can't imagine Bill Bennett countenancing for a second, nor Dave Barrett, nor any other premier that I've known since. These people are a one-off. They have absolutely no shame whatsoever. And if that's what they want to be, that's up to them. But as I said before, it reflects on every British Columbian. We're not that kind of people, Jimmy. We are a sympathetic people. In the days gone by, it didn't matter whether it was Socrates or whether it was NDP. It was nobody ever stinted on health care and so on. There's always criticism, more here, more there, and that's going to happen all the time in government as money is short. but there was nobody that was actually trying to cheat or hurt people that were ill and or destitute. And as a matter of fact, it was exactly the opposite. And I just don't understand how we've got people like this in government now. It's appalling. It's certainly the worst I've ever seen, and I've seen quite a bit over the years. And it just is. It's unbelievable to me, a lifetime British Columbian, to see any government of my province behaving this way towards people who are disadvantaged.
Rafe, before we go, I'd like to mention 3 people that we worked with at CKNW: Bob Robertson, Dave McCormick, and Neil McCrae. Each one of them a very unique talent. They'll be greatly missed. They all had different techniques and things that they did, but I really think that we should give them some credit for making broadcasting in BC something that was very interesting.
All 3 of them I knew well, and all 3 of them were first-class broadcasters and first-class people. I know you always are supposed to speak well of people who passed on, but it just happens to be true. Neil McCrae, as a sportscaster, was a very generous man. I thought he was an excellent sportscaster, great sense of humor, called it like he saw it, let the chips fall where he may, and that's, I think, a pretty good thing to have in sports. Al Davidson used to have it. The trouble is, Al used to talk about most things that had nothing to do with sports when he got mad. But Neil was right on. He was a very, very good sports guy and a first-class guy. Bob Robertson was one of the funniest people I've ever known, and another really wonderful man. And he used to take over my show once in a while when I was away, and I always had an audience that was just full of fun when I got back. They just loved him. He was a great guy. Big Daddy, I have a kind of a sad role to play there. When I got moved into an afternoon show at CKNW, they fired him. And it was too bad, because he was a great music guy and a lot of fun. I caught up with him later when I went to OR 600, or what the hell they call themselves, AM 600, after NW had fired me. So we were kind of blood brothers over at 600. But he was another first-class flying guy. And to have those 3 losses so quickly, it's a big blow. And it started me thinking about what radio is now, and I look at my friend John McComb, who's carrying a flag, but he's about the only one left. He's first class too, but there's not many left. The good guys and gals, I'm afraid, have gone.
Rafe, thank you so much for chatting with us.
My pleasure, Jim. Take care.
You too. My guest has been Rafe Mair, former BC Cabinet Minister and Canada's longest-running #1 radio talk show host. You're listening to The Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show can be emailed to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Join us again as soon as you can.
Comments made on The Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.